Well, we continue with the broadcast this morning right here on Salam Media and taking a look at what has been taking place in the United Kingdom. And if you have been following developments in the United Kingdom, we've seen horrific images coming through from the UK, and we are talking about an extreme right wing element, and particularly in the north of England, where we see a lot that has been happening. Now, is this as a result of a single incident, the Southport incident, or is there a lot more? And huge question marks are actually being raised as to where is the British intelligence with regards to this, because we've seen these protests with disastrous consequences mushrooming into many cities. And we are now joined by the director of the Ayaan Institute, a UK-based think tank, Jahangir Mohammed. Jahangir, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you for having me on.
Well, personally, for me as well, I have been following these developments in the UK, and clearly it's horrific that what we are seeing, and we are seeing this extreme right wing element taking advantage of the situation. We've seen the Prime Minister refer to them as thugs. And it is clear that there is a major concern at this point in time in terms of what we are seeing flashing through on our screens and what is taking place there.
It's dreadful in various cities around the country, in places like Middlesbrough. These some people call them far right. I prefer to call them white nationalists. This is a white nationalist movement that has been taking shape in the UK for some time. White supremacist, white nationalist, and of course they are, they're targeting Muslim homes, shops, smashing, going around down streets, smashing people's homes, but also it's not limited to Muslims. It's anybody who is basically not white. So it's a racist as well as anti-Muslim movement, and they're targeting asylum seeker hotels where asylum seekers are living, and a number of them have been set on fire, which is dreadful. Some of these people have come from war zones seeking asylum, running away from fear and terror in their own countries, and they're facing terror here. It's dreadful. Mosques have been attacked, and we've not seen anything like this for a long time.
Yes, but also raising the question mark in terms of, can one attribute this to an incident, a single incident? And we deplore that incident. We condemn the killing, of innocent young girls. But also, at the end of the day, is it about just that incident, or has this been coming for a long, long time, Jahangir?
The incident was the immediate spark, where fake propaganda that the murderer of these innocent children was a Muslim. So fake media coming from different places, including from India, an account in India which put out a Muslim named Shaukat Ali or something like this, and that sparked a wave of anti-Muslim hate. But that can only take place where an atmosphere has already been created, where even if it was a Muslim, it's an individual who's committed the crime. It doesn't mean that the entire community is responsible. So that prejudice, that whole hatred of Muslims, and collective blame, collective guilt for any issue that arises in the Muslim community, any crime that takes place which is blamed on Muslims, can only take place when the narrative has been created and widely popularized, as it was in Nazi Germany, as it was in Serbia, in Yugoslavia against the Muslims, And that's been going on for a long time, with politicians and the media peddling out the same narratives. If you listen to the chants on these riots, they are chanting the same slogans as politicians have been using. And this has been happening for the last 20, 25 years. We have openly hostile media that fans the flames of hate, has been fanning the flames of hatred, and on top of that, this threat. We know there are these far-right movements and individuals and groups. They have been considered a lesser attack, a lesser threat. And therefore, the eyes of the intelligence and security services have not been on this threat. And we know this threat is linked to the United States, to white nationalist movements there, that are also linked to neocons and Zionists who peddle this throughout Europe, this whole white identity or white nationalist movement, which has been spreading for some time across Europe, and we see elements of it, but nobody really has addressed it as a major threat, because it is a threat that arises out of the mainstream white European population in Europe.
Yes, and also, Jahangir, as you pointed out, that there are false claims with regards to the identity about the suspect who carried out these killings. But again, coming to the point, looking at intelligence, and I have been following developments now. Question marks have been raised about British intelligence in terms of whether they saw this actually coming. Now, clearly, when it comes to Muslims, when it comes to promoting Islamophobia, that intelligence is there. Okay. And we've never ever seen, even in a country like Britain and many countries around the UK, where you talk of Islam and you talk about extremists within the Muslim community, and when you're talking about terrorists and all of these labels that have been attached against Muslims. But we've never seen anything like this, that these right-wing extremists, racists, supremacists, call them what you want. At the end of the day, we've never ever seen Muslims behave in the manner that these people are behaving.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if this was the Muslim community doing this, and if they went outside a single synagogue or church, they would be classed as terrorists and they would be charged with terrorism. And that's exactly what it is. This is terror. It's terrorist acts. It's religious and racial hatred for an ideological political cause, which is terrorism in this country, but it's still not being portrayed as that. It's like there is some legitimate causes that the media keep referring to, and these are false narratives. So it's been there, but in this case, I think it is also most likely that some states are linked to this and have been organizing it. The United States and the United Kingdom behave, when they peddle fake social media, fake mainstream media news, and instigate riots in other countries like they have done in Iran, in South America, in other parts of the world. They do that themselves. In this case, I think what's happened is countries that the United Kingdom and the US are at war with, maybe the likes of Russia. Also, Tommy Robinson is linked to, has links to the Israel lobby, but also, Indian Hindutva trolls, the RSS type. I think those people are involved in this, or those groups linked to those movements are involved. So what you have is a global movement of three ideologies: Jewish supremacy, Hindutva supremacy, and white supremacy all working together with Muslims as their target. And at some point there must be some organizational level, but clearly the security services didn't see that as a major threat.
Well, talking of the security services and just looking at the images, it is clear that these protesters are bold, brazen, a don't care attitude to the extent where we've even seen, like, for example, the hotel incident where the police were on the one side of the wall, allowing these protesters to get inside the hotel, getting furniture out, flinging furniture at them. We've seen images where police actually backpedaling, with these protesters as they make their way towards this hotel as well. So all of this, at the end of the day, tell us that the impotency, firstly, on the part of the police as to why this was allowed in the first place. Could they have been a lot more effective in trying to even stop things like the hotel door being broken, like furniture being thrown out? All of that, at the end of the day, raises many a question as to where this thing has come from and where it's likely to go.
Yes, exactly. I think the police obviously have been trying to protect mosques and places, but they are inadequate. The sheer number of places that these riots are taking place and disorder taking place across Britain has stretched their capabilities, and they don't have the capacity to deal with them. And even if they did, these people are they want a war with the police. They want to have a violent confrontation with the police, and we've seen many police who are injured, and therefore I think the situation is beyond their control. We've had in Blackburn and other places Muslim communities standing up and defending their own communities, not violently but chasing people away. And basically, this has been necessary alongside the police to bolster the police. I mean, if they did try to stop the fires, they don't have enough police there, and they would suffer a lot of injuries. So I think at Ayaan we've been saying that, because the likes of Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage and even Elon Musk are saying there's going to be civil war, this is going to get worse. I think it's only right that the army is brought in to handle this situation. Otherwise, it could get a lot worse, and I think the police would be unable to cope with it.
Well, if you can commit your army into other countries, sovereign countries as well, to go and fight wars, I'm sure domestically that army could be very effective. Just so you know, you mentioned that obviously to an extent the Muslim community are trying to protect themselves. Just how has this actually gone down within the Muslim community? Is there a lot of fear? Are there major concerns?
Yes, the Muslim community is living at the moment in a state of fear. People are, particularly in isolated places, afraid to go out in case they get attacked. People have been stabbed. Taxi drivers have been dragged out of their cars. And in one case, there's an alleged acid attack on a sister in Middlesbrough. In another case, we saw somebody slashed with a knife. So these are terrible situations. People have closed mosques, so they don't. The daily prayers are not taking place, and even in the Southport incident, the 10 or 12 people who were in the mosque were locked in till all this living in fear of their lives until this ended, and they were safely escorted home by the police. So it's terrible times, and there are two schools of thought that are taking place. One school says don't go out and don't protest, don't do counter protests, don't try and defend yourself, leave it to the police. Clearly that isn't working. We know that street fascism, one of the aims of street fascism is to get into a conflict with the minorities, because the media will always portray the violence of the minorities in a different way to the majority. And therefore there's been a real concern that we don't want to get dragged into that. But in places like Blackburn, a patrol took place in Stoke-on-Trent, and in some parts of Middlesbrough, where people organised en masse and basically stood their ground, and the rioters basically fled. But they then went down streets in Middlesbrough and started smashing windows and doors of Muslim homes. So it's a very, very frightening situation. We've never seen this level of hatred. There have been riots in the past, in 2001, which focused on a few Muslim areas in Bradford, Oldham and Burnley, but on this scale throughout the country, in isolated towns really, where there are very small Muslim communities like Southport, like Sunderland, Hartlepool. We haven't seen this level of organised hatred of Muslims and targeting of Muslim communities around the country.
Well, Jahangir, Jazakallah khairan so much for that, for unpacking what you have with us this morning. We do appreciate you taking time out this morning with us, and we certainly will follow developments. All the best to you and to the community as well. May Allah grant safety to each and everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah.
Jahangir Mohammed joining us out of Manchester in the United Kingdom. And with that, we're going to go for a break. But next up, Africa, this hour of news and views is brought to you by Africa Muslims Agency. It is sponsored by AMA, Africa Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond. And next up, fired up with Hafiz Imran Chunara, CEO of Africa Muslims Agencies. Today's topic: humility will serve you far greater than arrogance will.